Hey there guys, Erica here from Howdy49RC. As you can see, we have some interesting new tools and materials to the bench today, mainly because I want to do some experimenting with balsa wood. I received a large box of balsa wood, God, a lot of years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, from an old guy at a church that I used to go to, and he's since passed away, but I received a large box of just balsa wood scraps. Because he enjoyed making balsa wood planes, I think. And so I got a bunch of scraps, and so I have a project, being some scale accessories, that I want to make out of this balsa wood. And I don't really know anything about it, other than it's super lightweight. So because I don't know much about balsa wood, I want to see how best it cuts and how best it glues. I made these little glue scraps, or glue samples basically, so I'm going to glue them together like so, and I'll be able to test the strength of the bond that way. When I was cutting these, I used this saw, and I wanted to mention that I added some wax to this blade because it felt a little bit sticky because we really never used this saw, but I thought it would be a good time to try it. And then the vise, I'm sure you guys have seen this vise in various other videos, but I've decided that this is going to be my RC vise because I always need something to clamp stuff here. I'm always filing something or sanding something, and it needs to be held, not in my fingers, so I think that's a good addition. So I figured we'd start with the glue, because then we can let it dry while we do the cut test. So the two glues that I've got are CA glue and just normal wood glue. I figured they'd both be a good shot, because I've heard people use CA glue on balsa, and I've assumed that wood glue would also work, because, I mean, balsa is a wood, right? So, I mean, it should work, in theory. Squeeze that. Quick clamp. I know the CA glue will dry pretty quick, but I'm just going to clamp it anyways. Put that off to the side. Grab our wood glue. Alright, let's give wood glue a shot here. Should be more than enough, really. Smooch it together. And then this will take longer to dry, so I'll have to come back later today and mess with it. Alright, there we go. I'm just going to wipe off the excess, I suppose. Alright, we'll let those sit and see how they turn out. Now let's move on to the cutting tests. So I've picked out 4 materials here. These two, the only one that this thin one is going to be used on is the X-Acto knife. I'm going to try that with this one. I'll also try the X-Acto on this, but the X-Acto I doubt will really cut either of these. So we'll start with the X-Acto on both of these and see how they turn out. Alright, let's see. Verdict is, X-Acto knife works great on the really thin stuff. Try that again. Okay. See that? That's something to be wary of, I suppose. That just cracked it. Okay. Information learned. Let's try the thicker one. Maybe try 2 passes on this one. Well, it works alright. Definitely not as good as on the very thin material, but we'll try this with the saws as well. So verdict is, in my opinion, the X-Acto knife is best on the super thin balsa. And of course, all this stuff is in my opinion. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I'm just messing around with what I have and what I think is going to work best for what I want to do. That's all. That's really the only reason I'm doing all this, so. Anyway, let's try the thin material with the coping saw. Well, it cuts it really easily. It makes a pretty messy job of the edge, though. That is the only thing I'll say. Let's try with the Japanese saw. Well, pretty much the same. I don't see a whole lot of difference on that one. And this is the finest tooth Japanese saw that we have, so not a whole lot of difference. Okay. Now let's try this little saw. I'm going to try cutting it flat ways, see if that makes any difference. I know that this really isn't the strongest way to be cutting it, because it'll do that. It'll flex. But for this saw, I'm going to have to try it this way. Okay. Well, that didn't really work. It was going really well until it cracked. So, with that in mind, let's try holding it off the edge of something. Like this. Cut the other end of it. Yeah, let's try this. This might actually work pretty well. Ooh. Okay. That actually worked really great. A little bit rough on the edges, but I can stand that. Figure I'll try the rest of them this way as well. Okay, that one also worked really well. Actually, that worked better. So, coping saw works better than this little saw when long ways like this. And let's finally try the Japanese saw. That's the winner. For a thin material, cutting it flat ways like this with the Japanese saw is going to be best. If it's wide. If it's narrow, I think I'll stick with the X-Acto knife. Let's go for some medium material now. I'll start with this saw, I think. Nice and quick, pretty smooth. Happy with that. Let's try the coping saw. Also pretty good. I think the finish is cleaner with this saw though, on the edge. Okay. And Japanese saw. Fast, as per the usual, and actually also pretty clean. Let me try that again. Okay, that's pretty good. I really like the Japanese saw. Let me try this one again. Okay, and I'll try this one again. Alright, Japanese saw it is. For medium material, Japanese saw is my favorite. Next up, we'll do some nice thick material. On this, I'm looking a little more for speed than for cleanliness, because if I'm going to be cutting a piece this large, chances are it doesn't need to be super clean of a cut, or the tolerance for it being clean is less. So, once again, start with this guy, and that's just barely going to cut all the way through. Okay, pretty rough, and these saws that cut on the push, in general, I'm not a fan of them. Just for anything, I'm not a fan, and it makes it feel, to me, a little bit rough and jarring when using them. They tend to jerk, in my opinion, a little bit. So, okay, that was so-so. Let's go for a coping saw. Okay, that's a bit slower, I think, but it's got a cleaner finish. And let's go with the Japanese saw. I think this, again, is going to be for the win. Yep, 100%. Japanese saw on thick material, once again, is the way to go, because it cuts super fast. There's a lot of tooth space. Yes, I know a lot of the teeth are broken. That is mostly my fault. I apologize to anybody who that bothers. But it's clean, it's quick, the edges are really nice and smooth, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that part of the cutting edge on the teeth of a Japanese saw are like up on the sides. It's not just the tips. The cutting edges are more, I don't know really how to describe it, but they're angled up. It's not just cutting at the point, I think it's also cutting on the side a little bit. Alright, it has been a couple hours. I've eaten lunch, I've taken a nap, and we can look at these guys now. So this is the CA glue sample, and this is the wood glue sample. I'm gonna guess that if one of these is gonna break, it's gonna be the CA glue, but I think it's gonna hold just fine. And the wood glue I think is gonna hold fine, but the downside is that it takes longer, so okay. That broke. Now let's try this one. Oh! Oh my gosh! Look at that! Could have been the piece of wood. It seemed to me like the CA glue took more effort to break than the wood glue did. That's impressive. I wonder if the CA glue, because it's more liquidy than the wood glue, if it penetrated more and thus gave me a stronger bond. Interesting. Well, there we go. I learned something. I guess I will be using CA glue on my BALSA Wood project in the near future. And also, now, this is kind of bad of me. I don't remember which. I know that the Japanese saw won on 2 trials, but I don't recall which one it didn't win on. Yeah, I don't remember. It might have been the super thin material. I might have liked this one better. I don't recall. But with that being said, due to this one winning 2 out of 3, I went and over my lunch break I found a shorter Japanese saw. It's only about 6 inches. It's 15 inches total length, so I mean it's about this long total, but there's only about 6 inches of blade, which is what I was looking for, so that, you know, I don't have this big like machete sort of thing as I'm doing something small, right? It seemed like it was a logical choice. Anyway, it's pretty cheap. It'll come maybe next week sometime, so as per when this video gets uploaded, it should be here in a couple days. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed my experimental process. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, because only 13% of my viewers are actually subscribed, which, come on you guys, we can do better than that. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, join the Discord server, chat it up in there, and also support me on Patreon. All those links will be in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next one.